Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Madisonville Marine. They are on their holiday break today, but they will be open for business tomorrow. 2021 is going to be their 45th year in business. So congratulations to Joe Special, Steve Sloan, and all the team down there. Just really good selection of boats, best prices, A1 customer service, best boat dealership you'll ever find. That's why I always say there's no better place to buy a boat, because it's absolutely 100%, no debate, true. Madisonville Marine. All right. One of the main talking points for the broadcasters this year has been, wow, they've got 2 5-stars that come off the bench. Off the bench, you can bring on the 5 stars. And I just thought back to what Josiah Jordan James got thrown into last year. And, you know, so many people, I mean, he became, there were kind of the people that were angry about the fact that that's not the 5-star I expected. We did a thing late in the year where we combined, because there's so many 5-stars out there, people lose track of it. It's like, well, there's only 5. No, there's 40. We did the numbers, points, rebounds, assists. He was kind of middle of the pack of all the 5-stars in the country. But because he got thrown out there, because people had the expectations, they got upset that he wasn't some one-and-doner. Springer and Johnson come in. They're coming off the bench. They're not being thrown straight into it. Now, they're coming in 3 minutes into it. I mean, it's not completely second-half guys here. But, Mark, your thoughts on being able to develop a guy. Would you prefer throw him in on the deep end the way that James had to last year, or work him in like Johnson and Springer so far?
Well, I think each one has its unique situation. Each player, how they handle things. The roster at that point, you know, Bailey was on the roster, couldn't play. Vescovi wasn't even in the country yet. You know, so there were some things that made him have to play, and he's a good player. Yeah. But the advantage from a coaching perspective to having somebody come off the bench is, and it's valuable for the kid too, because the kid can watch the first couple minutes, see how the game is flowing, how is the opponent defending, offensively, what are they doing, so that way when they get in on defense, what is their guy, where does he go, how does he move in their offense. So there's some advantages to get the familiarity. Now some players, if they sit on the bench those first couple minutes, they start looking around and butterflies start to fly around in their stomach a little bit more. And that's where the coaching staff just has to know what's better for that kid. But there's advantages both ways. I like that this team, when those 2 guys come in, I think that adds a level of offensive firepower and what they bring defensively. I think Jaden and Keon are arguably our 2 best on-ball defenders. And so as they start to wear down a little bit in those first couple minutes, we've got better defenders coming in.
There was a lot of hype coming into the season, more so on Johnson than there was on Springer. Everyone was looking forward to Johnson. The lottery picks, the draft projections all had him higher. I think you can make a good case that Springer has had more impact so far than Johnson. Your thoughts on the way the 2 5-star freshmen have played?
I think they played well. I think going into the Alabama game, they were combined for like 19 points a game. Springer was at about 11. When I watch Keon Johnson, I see more NBA-type moves and talent, but I think Springer's a really good offensive player. I think both of them are really good. I think they've accepted the role of coming off the bench. And to your point about throwing James in, and Mark alluded to this, you didn't have the talent you have right now, so you can afford to bring them along. And I think as the season goes, they're going to continue to get better. But I think both of them have a good offensive game. Both of them can play defense. I think both of them appear to have a good basketball IQ. I think these guys are going to keep getting better. I guess I wouldn't be surprised if one or both ends up being a starter later in the year.
And you really hope right now that Springer doesn't have the serious type of injury that's going to keep him out of the lineup for a few days. Right. And I always look at that, John, what does somebody earn in practice? You know, I think that's a lot of the way Rick Barnes is. If you go out there and practice and you show your teammates that you deserve to be on the court and you earn your minutes, then, you know, it does vary case to case. And but I do think, Jimmy, you do kind of look at them in production and how they help the team as one, you know, because they are out there a lot together.
Well, yeah, and just to be clear, I wasn't saying that Barnes made a choice to put James in there and he's choosing not to. He's got the luxury to do it this year, no question. But there is a difference, and I'm guessing if he'd had this kind of depth, he would have liked to have done this with James last year instead of having to throw him in as much.
Well, and Chuck mentioned, you know, earning playing time. You know, Coach Barnes earned a lot of the credibility with these guys when Fulkerson wasn't playing down the stretch because he wasn't playing well. You know, he's saying, hey, this is how you have to be performing. This is what the expectations are. and Fulkerson wasn't in down the stretch because he wasn't playing very well. And so, I think from a defensive standpoint, Keon has been really good. He has shown flashes. His size makes him more attractive on the NBA level, but he's also leading the team in turnovers right now. So as he gets more familiar, the other thing that makes it easier as a coaching staff to get these guys coming off the bench, Florida State had a guy that was a lottery pick in the NBA this year that did not start all year.
Right.
And he was a lottery pick. He's a millionaire now. So that's an easier selling point that these coaches are using with Jaden and with Keon to help build their confidence coming off the bench.
I'd much rather have that set up. If you've got a deep enough team to where you can bring in 5 stars and let them come in off the bench and not have to do the John Calipari, take your diapers off, let's get on the court. That's got to be tough, as Kentucky fans are learning this year. Let's talk about the Fulkerson and Pons thing, because Rick Barnes has been riding his 2 veterans. Look, this is not a guy who sugarcoats a lot, right? And the players love him, but Rick Barnes, he's critical, and he has been since he's been here. He's critical in those post-game press conferences, critical throughout the week. He has been critical of Pons and Fulkerson. Pons responded at Missouri with an unbelievable defensive effort. Fulkerson wasn't on the floor for the last 6 minutes last night, and it wasn't an injury. It was more about production. Are you surprised that he's going at those guys as tough as he is, as hard as he is so far, publicly?
Not really, because as you said he's done it since he's been here. He got after Grant Williams. He got after Schofield. He's been after a lot of people, Jordan Bone. So I'm not really surprised. And his motivation is to get the best out of them. He's going to stick them where he thinks he can get them to play at the highest level. I mean, he's been prodding Fulkerson for years. And finally, Fulkerson last year showed the player that Barnes wanted him to be. So I'm not real surprised that he will deliver a stern message to even star players.
Very good. And it's interesting. Some coaches can get away with that. It depends on what that personality is behind the scenes. Some coaches do that, and you lose the team pretty quick. Other guys, that's just who he is, and that seems to be who Barnes is. They know he loves them, but he gets after them pretty good.
It's tough love.
Yeah. He lets them have it pretty loud if he wants to. All right. When we come back, Tennessee had better turn things around quickly because they've got a date with Arkansas coming up. Not a bad basketball team. We'll discuss what to expect from Arkansas and their head coach, Eric Musselman, next on the Sports Source. Come on back.